so I just wanted to start with a story of my own. This actually happened last Friday. I was in my local barbershop getting my haircut, and I was talking to my barber. I was explaining to him that I'm on a PGCE course to study history, and he seemed enthusiastic. Oh, okay. Was you taught by a white man? That was his first question to me, and it did take me back, because his concern, it seemed to come from somewhere. So I explained to him that yes, I was taught by a white man. I was also taught by an Asian Caribbean. I was also taught by a black woman, but that led me to start questioning this idea. Why was that his first question? What is behind that? So I brought it to my peers, and we started to discuss what this idea was. And clearly there's this assumption that black people need to be taught their history by a black person. And from my experience alone, I can challenge that, because my history wasn't necessarily taught by a black person, but the passion and the conviction behind that teaching and the choice of the history was what inspired me, because your teacher isn't your only role model. He or she is not the person that necessarily inspires you to go on, but it's who you learn about and who you can actually see yourself in. And throughout my secondary life and also A-level, I studied Nigerian history, Ghanaian history, South African history, Caribbean history, African American history, and I literally felt empowered, not necessarily by who taught me, but what I was given access to. And that alone was enough to, I guess, allow me to challenge this idea that no, it's not necessarily black teachers that need to teach this topic. And it's in fact not only black people that need to learn about these topics, because we are living in a multicultural society right now. And when I study history, there isn't necessarily a history that belongs to a person. Through migration that we've been speaking about, everyone has an influence at some point, and we have to understand that black history shouldn't be put on a pedestal that happens once a month, that only a certain group of enthusiasts should learn about, but it should be embedded in our curriculum, just like any other history is. European history, Asian history, it should all be accessible to everyone. And we also have to get past this idea that it's only black teachers that can do it justice, because the passion and conviction behind any teacher is what gets that message across to the students. So we need to get past this idea that there is a fear, especially among non-black teachers, to teach black history. This fear needs to be tackled as a group of teachers, not necessarily black teachers taking it on and bringing it to non-white teachers and non-white students. It needs to be a collective approach. And this accessibility was, it gave me a lot more agency in my learning. One example I can give is during Black History Month, I was given the opportunity to host a Black History event. And I can say I went to the same school as Sharon, and I was also taught by the same person as Sharon, sitting opposite me. And I was given agency in my learning and in my celebration of my history in school, because there are a lot of events and things that happen outside of school within your family. You might have lessons there from your family, you might have events that you're a part of, traditions. But having that in school and being able to explore that with everyone was what made me feel that there is a place for Black history in schools. It's not something that children necessarily shy away from, because they are as in anything as long as you give them that enthusiasm and you make them feel like this is something worth learning. And through that feeling of agency and I have something here that I can be proud of, it followed me. And when I went on to university, or even before that, my first chance to study a piece of history on my own, during my personal study at A-level, I wanted to look into the Maroons of Jamaica. Now, that was a topic that didn't necessarily get covered during GCSE, but I felt like I had enough of my history to want to explore it further. So I went on to study that, and then through that I went on to university where I studied Caribbean studies. And that alone had its own struggles. When I was there, they were in the middle of cancelling the course. So I was losing teachers every year. And that, I guess, embodied this struggle that's happening not just at school level, but higher education level. And there, I guess, through maturing, again, I wanted to look at history that belonged to me and that affected me. So my dissertation was on this idea of Black fathers being absent. That's something that exists in the media and has been perpetuated, and I've never understood why. So I wanted to look into that, the representation of Black men and Black fathers in Britain. When I went to look for the information, I couldn't find a narrative from a Black man talking about Black fathers in Britain. And that is something that's been touched upon where certain oral histories aren't being documented. And to my surprise, a lot of the narrative that I did find was from Black women talking about their experiences of Black fathers. So I was presented with a challenge, and I wanted to provide, I guess, this voice that I couldn't find at the time. This was a few years ago. So I took it upon myself to, I guess, engage in this oral history. So as you can see, there's a man in the middle there. His name is Duke. He's a Dominican father, and I spoke to him and two other fathers about their experiences of being a father. And straight away I found that these narratives leveled the playing field. They actually had positive experiences of fatherhood. This man, he had 12 children, and he was there for each of his child's birth, and he was there with his children. This is something that isn't unique, and is something that is prevalent, but it's just not documented. So I felt that I had to engage and contribute to this narrative and try and create an arena that this conversation can be had. Because right now, a lot of it comes from the media. It's not coming from an academic standpoint where, I guess, Black fathers, Black mothers, Black men, Black women are talking about this together. It's either one side says something and then it's almost like a battle. And I would not have been able to do that if my teachers at the time, my lecturers, didn't have that same passion and that same conviction. Even though they weren't Jamaican and they didn't have the same, the exact same background as myself, they understood that you are passionate about this, you have this conviction, and I'm going to support you with it. So I guess that brings it back around to this idea that everyone has to be involved in the teaching of Black history, and it should be accessible to everyone, and that we need to address this issue of the fear of teaching Black history and try and make it a positive experience for everyone.